Primetime Fantasy Football is brought to you by Next Level Radio. Head to nextlevelradioonline.com for past episodes of Primetime Fantasy Football and the Showcast, plus celebrity guest spotlight. Now on to this week's Primetime Fantasy Football.
People I never thought about associating with. I don't know what it is. Talk to me. Check it out. Hey, cause we're the mansion on my land. Full jacuzzis and my neighbors can't stand the way I live. This oh so fast. Ain't got you ladies and prime time is all that.
Whoa, Dion. It's not that kind of prime time.
Yeah, man, it's Primetime Fantasy Football on Next Level Radio.
Well, alright. Yeah.
Welcome into this week's Primetime Fantasy Football. The NFL season is a day away. We are recording this at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Savings Time on a Wednesday. We are just over 26 hours from actual live football action. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm excited. I am your host, one of your three hosts, Adam Gorey, alongside with me in the studio, Joe Webster.
Hello.
And joining us live via Epix, Mr. Steve Richards from LA this week. Steve, how is the non-football area of the country?
I believe USC is ranked, so they're excited. But I haven't gotten a pulse of the nation yet.
Not NFL football, sorry. Maybe I'll be more specific.
Yeah,
all right, let's get right into things because I know Steve has to get out of here a little earlier than usual, hence the early showtime. Yesterday we had our fantasy football podcast league draft, and Joe was lucky enough to not be a part of the league, so he's going to actually break down, give us some, I don't know, are you going to give draft grades, or are you just going to kind of give your overall feelings?
I could give maybe some draft grades. I looked at some of the grades on
Yahoo,
and I agreed with some of them I did not. So I guess we'll just jump right in. I think the first round went pretty standard with the exception of, I don't know if he did this just because he already had named his name Forte, Shades of Gray, but Matt Forte was taken second overall, right behind LaShawn McCoy. I was talking to you, Adam, off the air today, and I was saying I really think you could make a case for anyone in the top five to be in any order that you want.
Yeah.
But in every draft I've been in this year, Matt Forte is not gone before number 4.
Yeah, I think maybe with the exception of Eddie Lacy, only because he only has 1 year under his belt.
That's why I would never pick him before number 5. But if you told me at the end of the year that Eddie Lacy is going to be the number 1 running back for fantasy, I would believe it.
Yeah, okay.
But I still think because it's only been 1 year, the whole Doug Martin situation, because I was a Doug Martin owner his rookie year, would scare me. But if the guy likes Matt Forte, I can't blame him for taking it. And obviously his name was Forte Shades of Gray. I think he was contractually obligated to take him there. So, but other than that, first round I still think went pretty smoothly. Marshawn Lynch at 6. Calvin Johnson was good for you. I know you were probably hoping he would fall to you, Adam. I like Steve's pick.
He did fall to me.
Yeah, I know, that's what I'm saying. I thought you were hoping. I bet you were glad that he did.
Yeah.
I like Steve's pick of Monty Ball at number 10. I really I think that's probably the best running back definitely available left in round 1.
Yeah. Because the next one that went was Ellington.
No, it looks like Gio went before Ellington. You took Gio before Ellington.
No, I didn't.
Then what is
Ellington was taken second.
All right, then. I'm looking at this the wrong way. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm looking at the Yahoo.
It
The way
doesn't
they do
snake on the screen.
It does not snake on the screen. That's why. So yeah, Ellington. So this is another thing. I mean, I like when I just looked at the team of Forte, Shades of Gray. I really liked his team. I thought I like Forte, I like the Ellington, and then I went and looked at where he drafted, and I do think he reached on both. But if they're as good, I mean, I'm the only one.
He doesn't have Ellington. He has Murray. Do you know how to read the screen?
I don't. This is really fun.
Joe does.
What am I looking at here? Oh, he's got Murray. All right, then never mind. I like his team a lot more now. Then it was the second round. It was I Win that reached on Ellington. I'm sorry. It was I Win. Okay, see, I was looking straight across.
But in his defense, in I Win's defense, if he really likes Ellington, and this is kind of why I try not to get attached to players, but if he likes Ellington, Ellington's not gonna be there by the time he picks again. So if he really likes him, by all means. But that's why I try not to get attached to players.
I agree.
I probably would have. I don't know who I would have taken. I mean, who else did he have? He had Demaryius Thomas, so I mean, he probably thought if I wait on a running back, I'm screwed. So
Right.
he was probably either between Ellington and Bernard, and he decided to go Ellington, which, I can't blame him. There's nobody behind him.
I mean, full disclosure, I am huge on Ellington this year.
Yeah,
I
I
reached
like
for him in
Ellington.
one of my drafts this year because I had where I was at the beginning of the draft. I knew he was not going to make it back to me the next round. So I reached for him because I wanted him on my team. So
Yeah.
I have no problem with that. And again, I predicted him to be a top 10 running back this year. So if my rankings end up being accurate, that's exactly where he should be taken.
Correct.
So round 2 looks pretty. You got somebody at the end, Julius Thomas by John. Is that Schneck's team?
Schenk. Yeah.
Schenk's team. I think that's a little early for him to go. I would
Tom, yeah.
have felt a lot more safe if it was more of a mid-round third pick. But I think what he sees is that there's a lot of people out there who realize that when you have such a big advantage at the tight end position, you can really do some things, and you'll have that advantage every week against your opponent. Another thing that jumped out to me was I couldn't believe Gronk lasted to round 4.
Yeah.
I really am surprised. I think especially with the news that he is good to go. And I know Bill Belichick came out and said, we're not sure. We're happy about Gronk saying he's healthy, but we're not sure how we're going to use him. I'm telling you right now, Gronk will play. And I'll talk about him in our high-low later, but Gronk is going to be a factor in week 1. I don't care if he's limited. Last year, Jimmy Graham was limited in a game. I think he had like 4 targets and 2 of them were for touchdowns.
Right, and they play the Dolphins. So.
Right. So if he's limited, it may be because they've got such a lead that they take him out. But I think he's going to be in there. And I do really think Gronk in round 4 could be the steal of the entire draft.
Yeah, I actually, as it was coming to me, because I didn't want to take him all the way back in the 3rd round. At the beginning or towards the middle of the 3rd round, I didn't have to, but I took Stacy because I want another running back to solidify that position. And as it was coming to me, I'm like, oh, Gronk is there. I'm like, either I'm taking Keenan Allen or I'm taking Gronk, and I had to decide. And the guy right before me took Gronk, so I guess that made my decision a little easier. Well, let's get on to your grades. Who do you think had the best, and maybe, no offense to whoever's listening, who do you think had the worst?
So let me see here who I had. I left my paper at work. I think the best ones, I really liked Forte Shades of Grey.
Okay.
I did not. Game Over got an A. I did not think he was A worthy. I thought he was more in the B range. I did think, and this is not being a homer or anything, I do think Steven Adams' team, our hosts, deserved better grades. I thought Adam was closer to an A than just a solid B. And I thought the same thing with Steve. I really liked Steve's team. His team, where we got it here.
Host punt here, B-, yeah.
B-, yeah. I think both of you deserved a better score. Open up Jamal Sheikh for me.
I actually think...
I remember not liking Jamal Sheikh's, I believe. I thought that he had...
name?
No, I don't care about his name. Let me see. No, it wasn't that team. Maybe it was...
Well, I actually think having the highest grade in the draft and most projected points is a curse.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, all right, so this is the first team. What team is this?
This is Game Over.
This is Game Over Inc. So Game Over Inc.'s team, I think, was graded as an A.
Yeah.
I disagreed with that big time.
Big time, wow.
I did. I love
Is it the running backs?
I love Peyton Manning and I love Julio Jones. Le'Veon Bell should be good, but we don't know. Frank Gore's going to probably lose some time to Carlos Hyde. My biggest problem is Kelvin Benjamin and Brandon Cooks are just so unknown.
Starting 2 rookie wide receivers.
Right.
Rookie wide receivers is risky business.
Now, if they hit,
Yeah.
the A grade is definitely worthy.
Game Over Inc.
Game Over Inc. But to me, this team is such a hit or miss. And if I had to bet on it, and he does have Gronk, which is good. He's got 3 players that are probably better than most of the other average, but the rest of them.
He also has 3 tight ends.
That's true. Yeah, so I probably would have went down a little lower, but Yahoo seems to like him. I thought it was funny. I think it was Forte Shades of Grey. I've mentioned his team a lot tonight. Still drafted Josh Gordon, even knowing that he was suspended for the year.
I know in the chat room he was curious if it would make him pick a kicker or not, and maybe that's why he did it.
Okay.
Yeah, he didn't. He was I think he's hoping for the appeal process, but I'm not sure that that's an option at this point.
Yeah, I think a lawsuit or something. But,
yeah.
So I'll just real quick run down the projections via Yahoo. Of
let's do that.
Standings are going to look like. So by Yahoo, they're never right. But Jamal Sheikh and Game Over Inc. both 11-2. Myself and Moose Tracks at 8-5. Steve and I win at 7-6. Ryan's team and John Schenk's team 6-7. Cerebral Assassin 5-8. And then rounding out the bottom of the barrel, Barnyard Pimps Forte Shades of Grey, one that Joe was probably going to think is going to do a lot better than this, and PG's Finest at 3-10.
Yeah. So I disagree with a couple of those. I do think Forte Shades of Gray has a better team than what's projected up there. But like I said, I've been in multiple Yahoo leagues, and they never seem to
They're never right.
have the projections right. And it's good because in one of my leagues, I'm projected as worst.
That's good.
Yeah, so I think I'm actually going to be doing all right.
Probably not, but
Probably.
And to tell you what the Yahoo draft or projections are like, last night, immediately after the draft, I was 6-8. So now that Adam has come up with these updated standings, not 24 hours later, so Yahoo's taking a shot.
Yahoo's a flip-flopper.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, it was actually a great draft. Steve was here when we did it because we just wrapped our interview with Sheil Kapadia, who we will play that interview for you in a little bit, from Birds247 and PhillyMag.com. But no, it was great. People were chatting in the room, which was fun. I don't think we had any auto drafters, right, Steve? Somebody maybe for the first round.
Yeah, we had two guys come late, but they were there for the majority of the time.
So
which is always good.
Yeah, everybody is eligible to win the league. Then
You like that? It should be fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So let's quickly move on here to our next segment. It's a new one. We're debuting it because it's about to be the regular season. It's called High Low. All right, and for High Low, what we do here, we each pick 3 guys this week that we are high on and 3 that we are low on. So let's start off with the highs. Matt Forte for me, number 1. Bills they gave up only the 18th most points to running backs last year, but I think they're going to be running the football a lot. I don't see the Bills staying within like a touchdown of them. So I think they throw early, but give Forte the rock in like the third and fourth quarter, and he racks up a few receptions and rushes. Either of you agree, disagree?
I agree.
Yeah, I think Forte. I think Forte's going to have a good game. I don't know. I guess we're still trying to establish high-low. I don't know if it'll be higher than projected or anything like that, but he will have a good game. So his stock could be on the rise.
All right, another guy I'm high on this week. So for high-low, we're trying not to do the obvious starters on our high positions, maybe like 1 or 2, but we'll try and give you a couple guys we're high on that maybe you're not initially thinking of starting. So for me, Ruben Randall, I like this week. The Lions gave up the 3rd most points to wide receivers last year. They're going to be throwing it a lot, I have a feeling. I don't see them staying real close in this game. I think they're going to have to go to the air for the most part. And he's a big target, and if they want Eli to complete a lot of passes and get that completion percentage up, I think they're going to go to a bigger target like Ruben Randall. I think Victor Cruz still has a pretty okay game. I don't think Odell Beckham's going to be playing this week. I think he's going to be out for a couple more weeks. So he's going to be a red zone target for me and probably Eli's go-to red zone target. How do you guys feel about Ruben Randall, Joe?
I can't disagree with anything you said. I think he was a late round guy I was hoping to grab in a bunch of my leagues, but just watching the offense this year in the preseason was terrible.
Hard to watch, yeah.
And I would not feel comfortable starting any of the wide receivers, which is a shame because I do have Cruz in our league that I'm with you. But so I would probably disagree. I hope if you're starting Ruben Randall week 1, I think you probably did not draft very well.
Well, what if it's a deep league?
If it's a deep league, then maybe you're all right. Then maybe you're all right. But I wouldn't feel comfortable starting any of the receivers in New York until I see it.
All right, and then the last one for myself for the highs, Colin Kaepernick. Dallas gave up the 2nd most points to quarterbacks last year. They also gave up the most to running backs, which he's kind of does that too. So I just think it's a great matchup for him going down there to Dallas and playing in Jerry World on turf like that. So I think that works out pretty well for him. Steve, how do you feel about Cap?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you can pretty much ride anybody who's going to play Dallas for the whole year, and it'll be proven to work out for you at a lot of positions. So, yeah, now we get to find out just how bad Dallas's defense is, and you'll probably be pleasantly surprised this week with Kaepernick.
Yeah, all right. So who are your highs for the week, Steve?
I started out with Cam Newton, another running-type quarterback. I don't have the injury concerns. I'm sure a lot of people do, and somebody on these in the show might. But the Tampa Bay secondary isn't really all that good. They weren't that good last year, and now this year there's no Revis. So that just adds to it for me that he might be able to throw it around a little bit, and I don't have any of the injury concerns. So What about you guys? Are you interested in the high on that one?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you, depending on where you had to get him to draft him, you're probably not going to be sitting him anyway unless you went, back to back, maybe a Cam Newton, then Russell Wilson, something like that. But yeah, his injury does concern me a little bit. But if he's ready to play, I think he's going to be throwing, running. He's going to do it all. I think you should feel comfortable leaving him in there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you need to overthink yourself.
Right.
Especially week one.
In that situation.
Right.
Yeah. The other guy, another injury concern type guy, is Percy Harvin, coming off long-time injury last year. Obviously played in the Super Bowl, but didn't play in the regular season. I don't have that concern, again, same as Cam Newton. The way I see it is he has something to prove. They're playing in Seattle to start the season. I think he's going to be all jacked up, and I think he's primed for a pretty good game coming up in tomorrow night, actually.
Yeah, I like Percy Harvin. I think they're going to go to him a lot. So I think, especially in a PPR league, I think, I agree with you on the high end of that.
Yeah, I agree.
Cool. And then, we talked about not picking too many studs, but I have Jamal Charles on my list here. So to make it a high and say how high I am on him is I'll have him as my number one scoring back this week. I think Kansas City is going to blow Tennessee away, and there's going to be plenty of opportunities to run the ball against a bad run defense in Tennessee. So I have Jamal Charles outscoring everybody this week. That's how high I am on him, I guess.
Can't argue that.
Yeah, nothing. I can't disagree and put him on a low end. So Joe, let's go straight to your highs.
All right, so first one I led off with is Nick Foles. The reason, I think we saw a pretty vanilla offense all preseason, the same thing we saw last year, and then everybody remembers that Monday night game against the Redskins where the entire nation was just talking about what Chip Kelly and Mike Vick did and all that kind of stuff. And I think Nick Foles is going to do the same thing. And if I had to put a 1A guy in there, I don't think we've even touched the surface of what Sproles is going to do. And I think you're going to see him used a lot. I know I didn't put him on my list, but
I like him in a PPR league for sure.
Absolutely, but I think Nick Foles against I don't think the Jaguars defense is necessarily terrible, especially with Gus Bradley there.
Actually, we'll hear a little bit of that when we talk to Shield.
All right, I thought maybe with Gus Bradley's turning that defense around, maybe Shield knows obviously a little bit more than I do. I think Nick Foles is going to go off.
I'd say a lot more, but anyway, yeah, I agree. Nick Foles, I'm on board.
All right, I did go with somebody big, and this is because I think that he is going to be the best receiver this week. Is Julio Jones. I started watching Hard Knocks. He's been great in all of the preseason practice. We do. At one point in Hard Knocks, he's talking about how he's unstoppable. They did a practice with Houston Texans a couple weeks ago, and there wasn't a guy in camp who could cover him. So it was pretty amazing, and I just think in a shootout against the Saints, it's going to be a throwing matchup.
Yeah,
I love Julio.
Yeah, I like both Saints.
Obviously, if where you draft him, you're starting him anyway.
Yeah,
but
I do like both Falcons receivers in that game, Julio and Roddy.
Yeah, I'm not sure where he's ranked as far as, or he falls in the projections type goes, but I think there's a pretty good case that he'll outperform somebody that's in front of him. Unless he's projected as the top one, then he could perform there.
Yep. And then finally, in case you're worried about injuries, I've already kind of talked about this, Gronkowski, I'm all in this week. If he's playing, which it sounds like he will, I think he will do something big. I think even if he is limited, as soon as the Patriots get the ball to the red zone, Tom Brady is I'm guaranteeing you right now, he will get several red zone targets, which should equal at least one touchdown if he's getting those looks. I just don't think anybody can stop him. So as long as he is good to go on Sunday morning, get him in your lineup.
Yeah, I agree. I do see him getting at least one touchdown this week. I think they're going to establish that early in the season here.
Yeah, I'm on a little bit on the other end. I'm not necessarily high on him, but I'm pretty sure he's going to prove me wrong. So I wouldn't have any doubt starting him this week.
All right. Well, let's move on to the lows, and I'll start off again a little bit not opposite of Steve with Cam Newton, but I have Kelvin Benjamin as high as I am on him for the season. I'm a little low on him this week. I know Tampa Bay gave up the 12th most to quarterbacks last year, even though I should have probably checked the receivers. Maybe that's receivers. Maybe that's a typo. But anyway, I don't know if I necessarily have Cam's injury concern as part of the reason that it's a low, but just the fact that maybe they don't have as much time together with Cam not practicing this week. I don't know that they're necessarily going to immediately be on the same page this week. I think moving forward, I'll be a lot higher on him. But just for this week, I'm kind of playing it cool. You know, if I have another guy I can start ahead of him, I am. Are either of you Are either of you thinking about starting Kelvin Benjamin in the league this week? Joe?
No, I don't think where you drafted him at. I don't think he. Maybe a flex spot if you're kind of weak there, but I kind of agree with you. I want to see, even though I do agree that he's probably the rookie with the most upside, I kind of want to see it first before I feel comfortable with him in my lineup.
Yeah, and you did have the numbers right. It was 12th most to wide receivers. You just had the typo in the prep email here, but
Okay.
So yeah, and it's always, you don't really know what to expect from a rookie wide receiver in his first game that actually counts. So you could probably somebody you can hold off on just because it's week 1, like you said.
Yeah. Secondly, I got Randall Cobb. I actually have him on a team, but Seattle gave up the least amount of points to wide receivers last year. He hasn't had a great preseason. I think he will, again, kind of like Kelvin Benjamin, I think he'll have a solid season. But I'd actually be more confident going with a guy like Jordy Nelson this week. I'm not as low as I am on Cobb as I am with Jordy. I'm a little higher on Jordy. So either of you high or low on either of the Packers quarterback or wide receivers, Joe?
I do think I'm not high on either of them, and it's a shame. I know I have Jordy in one of my big leagues, and I'm going to still play him because I drafted him in the second round. I think, like you said, you don't want to overthink, especially first week. But if I had to pick a receiver to sit, it would probably be Randall Cobb. He hasn't had a great preseason. For Fantasy Pros website, I'm one of the Packers correspondents, so I do read a lot of the beat writers' reports, and he hasn't been bad. But at one point, they were just talking about some of the drops in practice. They were talking about that rookie Devontae Adams, who was doing good, who would probably take more away from Jarrett Boykin. But just the point is that just Cobb was not looking as good, whereas Jordy had a very good preseason in camp, but in the games he didn't really get many looks.
Yeah, right. And looking at ESPN, we'll just go off ESPN's rankings for this week because we don't have time to create our own rankings, so we just look at others. And kind of give our opinion on him. So Randall Cobb's ranked 11th. That's his average. He's ranked ahead of Emmanuel Sanders, Keenan Allen, Crabtree, Larry Fitzgerald, Victor Cruz, Percy Harvin, Vincent Jackson, Pierre Garçon, Michael Floyd. I mean, there's a bunch of those guys that I would start over Randall Cobb. Emmanuel Sanders is a no-brainer to me, especially with the Wes Welker suspension.
Agree. Yep.
I would be excited with Crabtree. I think you said Crabtree was one of the names below him.
Yeah.
I'm kind of quick, but I would start Crabtree before. And yeah, like you said, I mean,
yeah, they played Dallas.
Joe's there you go. Joe's the one that writes about the Packers, so I don't really have much to add. But there aren't going to be many weeks where you're not going to be high on more than one Packers receiver. But ironically enough, week 1 is probably one of them.
Right.
I think you ride Jordy whenever he's in. But other than that,
And chances are where you drafted Cobb too. I mean, depending on how you structured your roster, you may have to have him in there. But I agree, if you went the next round with Crabtree.
Right.
That may be something you want to think about putting
I
in
do
there.
actually have to start him, but I'm not expecting a lot. So last one for me, Steven Jackson, way low on this week. New Orleans actually, their defense wasn't very good a couple years ago. They only gave up the 23rd most points to running backs last year. Steven Jackson missed the entire preseason. He has been practicing, but I see this game as a shootout. I don't see him getting a whole lot of touches. So I just... He's another guy to me that I'm not high on him for the season. I don't think the Falcons have the best run blocking offensive line, and he's just a guy for me. If I have other options, I'm taking him. I mean, quickly while you guys are talking, I'll check out the rankings and maybe see who is ranked behind him, but he's just not high on my list at all, and probably moving forward.
Yeah, he's actually on my list of lows as well, so I can cover what I said now. He had limited work in camp. They did lose their starting left tackle in preseason. Now they have that rookie tackle, Matthews, who obviously comes from a great pedigree, his dad, Bruce Matthews. But there's a reason why he wasn't the starter coming into the season. He was a rookie. He was still learning. Right. So I think that line, obviously is not as strong as it was. And I agree with you. I mean, just all indications from what we saw last year, I'm not high on him for the season, and especially not in this game.
Yeah, Fred Jackson. He's ranked 26, by the way. Fred Jackson after him, Pierre Thomas, Bernard Pierce. Bernard Pierce for me is a no-brainer. He's practicing. He's going to play this week.
Yeah, he's the starter.
Yeah. Steve, do you have anything to add about Steven Jackson, or should we move on to your lows?
Nah. 23rd most is also known as 10th least. Does that count as anything?
It does.
Okay. Well, then the Saints gave up the 10th least points to running backs in 2013. Then.
All right. Well, let's go on to your lows.
My first guy is also a running back. It's Eddie. I have Eddie Lacy. Is my first guy that I'm low on this week. The only thing that I wrote down was it's hard to do anything against Seattle on the road, which is, you can't go anywhere else for that kind of knowledge.
That's accurate.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just don't know that. I'm not sure how Green Bay at all, but I think that it'll be more passing just because they're going to get behind in that stadium on opening night, coming off a Super Bowl banner raising or whatever they do on
with
opening night.
Seattle pumping extra noise into the stadium.
Yeah, exactly. And
All of
Joey,
our Seattle listeners are going to love that.
yeah. Joey, I know you were. You have Eddie Lacy on your low list as well. So go ahead and take this one.
I do, and it's for the exact same reasons. And it just, it sucks if you drafted him because you obviously drafted him, probably 5th or 6th overall, and you're probably just not going to get much from him. Seattle is so good.
You can't bench him though, right?
No,
you can't overthink.
Don't overthink it. He's on. You're starting him no matter what. Because here's the other side that I don't think it's going to happen, but I think the only way that you quiet down that stadium, rather than scoring quickly, is to just drive the ball down the field methodically, and you do that by running the ball. And Eddie Lacy is a horse. I think they can.
Okay.
Now, do they do that?
Right.
Maybe not. So that's why I said this is very unlikely, but it wouldn't, if we came in here and did our show next week and we said, look what Eddie Lacy did, they quieted it down, it wouldn't completely shock me.
Right.
But I agree, he's on my low list for the same reason, just playing in Seattle stuff.
Yeah. The second guy I have on my list is actually a guy who's got a huge hype train behind him in Kyle Rudolph at the tight end position. I think a little bit like Eddie Lacy, actually. He's going to be really good this year, I think. But the Rams' defense is really good, and they're even better against tight ends going off last year's numbers. So I would just give him some time to get into the groove with Castle and things like that, and really just let him develop a little bit. But, this is another guy I have 2 straight guys on my low list that I would still probably start, but I just wouldn't expect all that much out of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of indifferent on Rudolph this week. I'm not extremely high on him because of the defense. I think I'm more curious than anything for Kyle Rudolph. All that hype with Norv Turner, and tight ends. I'm kind of just interested to see if that continues. With like they have with Jordan Cameron, Norv Turner coaching Jordan Cameron last year.
Yeah, and then the Rams, I said they gave up the least amount of points in the league last year against tight ends.
Also known as the 32nd most.
Also known as 32nd most. Yeah, that's good analysis. And then
right here, that's the only place you'll get that.
The third guy I have is actually somebody that I won't start because I wouldn't have drafted him to begin with. But Tony Romo is a guy I'm low on. Just going off again this back injury. I probably say it every week about his back. I think that's a real concern for him going into the year. But in addition to that, San Francisco's secondary I think they're good, and I think that their pass rush is good enough even without. Is Aldon Smith playing or not? I don't know. I think he got suspended.
I think he's suspended.
Yeah, but even without Aldon Smith, I can see they're in complete passing situations because they're going to fall behind early and often. So
I think they're all suspended actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just going to tee off on Romo and have their ears pinned back, so to speak, and I don't see much production from Romo.
Yeah, I can't.
I'll disagree a little bit. I do agree that obviously they're playing a good team, but I think I was one of the guys who were a little higher on Romo. The back injury, as of right now, is not scaring me too much, and I do think that their offense is really dangerous. Their defense is so bad, but I do think. Depending on if you were one of the guys who waited a while and you drafted him, you probably then took a backup. Maybe if you got Jay Cutler, you would want to start him over him.
Right.
But you want to look at the matchup. I think depending on the matchups, I would not be that afraid to start Tony Romo this week. But if you do have a better matchup, because it's against San Francisco, go for it. But I'm not as worried. I think he's still going to put up good numbers.
Yeah, I think this week I'm a little more okay with starting him than I'm thinking about long run. I think eventually that back issue does catch up to him. He might be okay for the next few weeks. On ESPN, he's ranked 12th, ahead of Cam Newton, who's playing Tampa Bay, who we mentioned. Phillip Rivers is playing Arizona. RG3 is playing Houston. Carson Palmer playing San Diego. Ben Roethlisberger. So, maybe a couple spots lower than that on my ranking if I had to do a ranking.
And let's just make this clear. You don't agree with that, Steve? Is that what you're no? You don't agree with
no.
Romo ahead of Cam Newton?
Well, I have Cam Newton in my highs and Tony Romo's in my
right.
Read between the lines.
Right.
All right, Joe. two of yours were mentioned.
Eddie
so let's get
Lacy,
your
Eddie
last
Lacy, and Steven Jackson. We've already talked about. My other low is going to be Andrew Luck. I think I went and looked at.
That's a bold low.
It is a bold low, and here's why. He's playing on the road at Denver, so he's got a tough matchup. And according to and now this is NFL.com's their fantasy predictions. I was looking at theirs. They've got him ranked as the number 5 quarterback for this week, ahead of
ESPN has number 4.
Ahead of in ESPN it does not, but on NFL.com they have him ahead of Peyton Manning at number 5. And I think that's just silly. The reason I did that is because Andrew Luck's being drafted just outside of those elite quarterbacks. He's normally number 5. I do like him a lot this year too, but I don't think he's going to be the 5th best quarterback this week according to the NFL.com projections, or 4th, whatever they had him. So I listen, if you have him, you're starting him, and I do in a league, but I'm not. I don't think he's going to be. I think he's probably going to be back towards the 10-12 mark.
Okay. Personally, I'm not. I won't say I'm low on him, but I'm not as high as 4 or 5. You know,
I think that's what I was looking at. Those projections.
I put him in the top 10 still for me, but maybe like 7 or 8.
I'd probably put him a little further back, but not too far off.
Foles and Stafford I like better than him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Russell Wilson maybe even, but yeah, definitely Matt Ryan and Drew Brees. Steve, what about you? Any thoughts on Andrew Luck?
I think having him in front of Peyton Manning is ludicrous, but I don't know that we're really arguing that point. I tend to agree with Joe that, he throws for a lot of yards, but I think this might be the year he becomes an elite fantasy quarterback. So if you drafted him and you get him, good for you. But for right now, I can't disagree with what Joe's saying here. And on the road in Denver, that's a tough matchup.
Yeah. That is a tough matchup. All right, well, that is our high-low. I think that went pretty well for the first time, right?
Not bad.
Yeah.
That's what she said.
Okay. Of course she did. All right, well, we're going to quick play for you. Steve and I had the opportunity to speak to Shil Kapadia from Birds 24/7 and PhillyMag.com last night, and he gave us some in-depth on the Eagles, both for the season and for Week 1. So let's get to that, and then we'll come back after we're done playing the Shil interview. We will do our over-under. We will continue doing that throughout the season, not just because we're not doing the divisions anymore. And then we also have a listener question for you. So let's get to the interview. We are here with Shil Kapadia from Birds 24/7 and Philly Mag. First off, Shil, we want to really thank you for joining us.
No problem, guys. How you doing?
Very good. So let's get right into it. First week of the NFL season coming up. Preseason's over. I want to ask you, how has Nick Foles looked in camp and preseason this year compared to last year when he was competing for the starting job? Now that he has it this year, has he looked any better, worse, indifferent?
Yeah, I think he looks more comfortable. I think he has the command of the offense. The decision-making, I think, is his biggest strength, even when you go back to last year. So it's all about having the answers, identifying the coverage, knowing your play call, and knowing where to go with the football. And I think he has a really good grasp of all of those things. Now, I won't say he's looked crisp every day. Part of that has been him. Part of it has also been the injuries to the wide receiver. So he was playing with backups for a lot of the summer. That's a factor to take into account. But I fully expect Nick Foles to play well again here in 2014.
Yeah, and then talking about the injuries a little bit and the guys that he's been throwing to, Macklin definitely had a scary-looking injury in the third preseason game. He ended up being fine and all that, but what do you expect from him? Is there any scare maybe of injury-prone, or do you expect him to have the kind of career year that Deshaun Jackson and the other Eagles had last year under their first season with Chip Kelly?
ACL injury, a lot of the times, it takes them a couple of years where they were to get back to feel like they were 100%. I think Adrian Peterson kind of ruined it for everybody with the way he came back, got off of it, and was just kind of, put up that amazing season. But it doesn't work that way for everyone. So, I think Macklin will be okay. I think he'll catch a lot of balls. My question is, will he be able to stretch the field? The Eagles had so many big pass plays last year, led the NFL in pass plays at 20-plus yards, and Deshaun Jackson was really a big part of that. So what I need to see, especially early in the season, is can Jeremy Macklin kind of make some of those plays downfield and get vertical against the opposing defenses.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so with Deshaun Jackson gone this year, do you think the role with Zach Ertz will increase, or do you think maybe somebody else will see more looks than they would, had Deshaun stayed in Philly?
Yeah, I think the ball will be spread out a lot more, but I really think Zach Ertz has a chance to have a breakout season. He really came on during the second half of last season, and just watching him during practices and in the preseason, he does a fantastic job of using his size, kind of boxing out defenders, going up, getting the football at its highest point, catching the ball in traffic. He's really a physical receiver, a really good route runner. I think he's going to lead the Eagles in touchdown catches, and overall, I think he really has a chance to be a big part of the offense.
Yeah, Shil Kapadia here joining us, kind enough to join us on Primetime Fantasy Football, the writer and editor at Birds 24/7 and does some stuff for PhillyMag.com as well. In an article that you wrote on Birds 24/7 on Monday now, you interviewed a bunch of guys around the locker room and asked which guy they thought would have a breakout season. And we noticed that Jordan Matthews was mentioned a couple times in that article. So do you see a little bit more of the training camp Matthews, where all the reports are he was killing it with the twos, or could we see a little bit of what we saw in the first preseason game where he struggled a little bit, had 3 drops, and struggled to get open a little?
Yeah, that was interesting because a lot of the veterans, it was some veterans actually, who named Matthews, which is sort of unusual for this kind of activity where a rookie comes in and impresses them. I'm not on the full 100% hype bandwagon of Jordan Matthews, but I think he'll be a good player. I think his strength is kind of finding space in zones, running kind of crossing patterns underneath routes, and picking up some yards after the catch. I haven't seen from him that he can get vertical and make plays down the field. I also haven't seen that he can make contested catches where he just sort of uses his 6'3" frame and his size to out-muscle opposing defenders. Those are the things I want to watch with him. If he can translate those skills to the NFL level, he has a chance to be really good as a rookie. If he doesn't, I still think he'll be their slot receiver and be productive, but he may not wow you as you might expect, having read some of those training camp reports.
Yeah, I hear you.
I just want to get your opinion real quick. With the injury history with Maclin, if one of those two big guys on the outside were to go down, do you think they would stay with him in the slot, or do you think they would move him outside and put somebody else in the slot?
When he first got drafted, I thought the plan would be to have him be the primary backup outside, but based on everything I've seen, he's lining up almost exclusively in the slot, so I'm not sure that he would go outside and take all of those snaps. They really wanted him to concentrate on that one position, being a slot receiver. And I know every guy kind of has to learn all of the different positions, so I'm sure he has a working knowledge. But I'm not ready to say that if Maclin or Cooper were to go down, he would definitely be the guy on the outside.
Okay. Well, let's go on the opposite end of the spectrum here and move on to this week. I'm sure you've been studying up on the Jacksonville defense as well. If the Eagles win this game, who's somebody to look for with a standout performance on offense against that Jaguars defense?
I think everybody on the offense should have has a chance to have a pretty good day. It's not a great defense by any means. It was okay, I think, towards the end of last season, but it certainly ranked in the bottom third of the league in year one under Gus Bradley. So they added some guys. They added Chris Clemens and Red Bryant, a couple former Seahawks who Bradley had out there in Seattle. They have a safety, Jonathan Cyprien, who's going into his second season, and they had some guys up front who can rush the passer a little bit, but no one who's really a fantastic player. Not a lot of guys you have to game plan for. I would expect the Eagles to be able to move the football and to put up some points. So, I think the offense is going to be good this year. I think there's going to be a lot of weeks where you can start a lot of guys on this Eagles offense in fantasy, and I certainly think this is one of those weeks.
So there's really nobody that we should be kind of cautious about before getting really excited about the matchup?
No, I think Foles should have a good game. I think McCoy should have a good game. Guys like Cooper and Maclin, those are your question marks. I'm not sure exactly what to expect from them. I'm not expecting monster fantasy seasons, really, from either one of those guys. But, hey, they could surprise me, given what we saw last year with skilled position players in Chip Kelly's offense. Maybe they will put up big numbers. I just think the Eagles are going to spread the ball around a little bit, and Cooper needs to prove he can do it for a second season, and Maclin needs to prove he's healthy enough to really be a factor.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It would be a little short-sighted of us if we didn't get your expertise on the Eagles' defense as well. But seeing as this is a fantasy podcast, that means that we'll be talking a little bit about the Jaguars' offense here. So I guess, do you see any holes in the Eagles' defense or anything that they're kind of lacking in? And as a result, is there a Jaguar that maybe could have a nice game here in Week 1?
Yeah, I think there's quite a few holes on the Eagles defense stuff. Based on what we saw last year, they played well in stretches, but I think the pass rush is still a question. Now, Jacksonville's offensive line is atrocious. It was terrible last year. They made a lot of changes, but it's still, I don't think, is very good. So this may be a week where the Eagles are actually able to rush the passer a little bit. I think the Eagles' run defense is probably underrated. I thought it was really good last year. I think it's going to be even better this season, so I wouldn't expect Toby Gerhardt or any of those Jacksonville running backs to really have big games Sunday afternoon. So if I'm starting somewhere, I would take a look at the wide receivers if it's a deeper league, or if you have a flex spot, maybe someone like Cecil Schwartz or even the rookie Marquise Lee. One of those guys has a chance to. Someone's got to catch the ball, right? So even if Chad Henne only completes 14 balls, someone's got to make 14 catches. So I think one of those guys is probably the best bet to be Jacksonville's leading receiver.
Yeah, nice. I actually have Cecil Shorts in a league, so you've given me confidence, Sheil.
Great confidence.
So we appreciate you coming on with us. It sounds like you got an Eagles win on Sunday, so hopefully there's a couple more wins on the horizon as well, coming from a couple guys in Philadelphia. So we really appreciate you coming on with us, and we hope to talk to you again soon.
Okay, thanks a lot, guys. Take care. Have a good night.
Yep,
yeah, you
thanks.
too.
See ya. All right, that was our interview with Sheil Kapadia from yesterday. Great insight into the Philadelphia Eagles. Steve, any comments about what we had talked about yesterday before we get on to over-under?
I mean, yeah, whenever we're going to try to do this more often, and whenever somebody like with the knowledge that Sheil has comes on, you can take it to heart. And we talked a little bit of football, but we also, it's pretty easy to translate that guy's football knowledge into fantasy knowledge. Whenever he says something, listen up.
Yeah, when he talks, we listen.
Yeah, no kidding.
All right, so let's move on to over-under.
It's time for over-under.
All right, first up, so the way we're doing over-under now is we just pick whatever the hell we want to pick, and we discuss if we go over or under. So some of these projections, most of them I think are off NFL.com because we're just, by doing that, we're plugging the NFL, which the sport is based on, so we're not really plugging anything. First up, Peyton Manning projected, let me see if this updated at all. Actually, it went down. It was at 23. It's at 21.4, 44 points, 386 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Steve, you going over or under 21.44 points for Peyton Manning?
Over, because of what he did last year in Week 1.
7 touchdowns?
No, but I do think that he'll do better than that. Peyton Manning always likes to prove that he's still got it, and there's no better way to do that in Week 1. So I'll go over.
Joe?
I will take the over as well. I think almost any time you're going to ask me with Peyton Manning over, under, I'm going to probably take the over.
Yeah, I'm taking the over as well. Next up, Frank Gore, projected to be the 10th highest scoring running back this week. 15.8 points. Let me just check to see if that's still accurate, because I guess, as Steve knows, NFL.com decides to change their rankings very randomly here.
Yeah, there's something. He's inside the top 10 now.
Yeah. All right, well, he's projected. That's kind of weird. All right, he's projected to get 11.7 points, 41 rushing yards, a touchdown, and 16 receiving yards. Projected to be the 6th highest scoring running back. Over, under, the 6th highest scoring, and by over it means better than 6. Or under is worse than 6. That's kind of confusing. Maybe we should avoid those. But anyway, Joe, we'll start with you.
I'm taking the under. I don't think he's going to finish in the top 10.
Okay, Steve?
I'm up.
I'll take the worst.
I will also take the worst. Joe is doing a draft right now, live.
So I'm doing a live draft. It is a keeper league. I have 2 terrible keepers. We'll do it live on the 11th pick, and it is a heavy wide receiver. It's a PPR league, and I've got Dez Bryant on the board, as well as Julio Jones and A.J. Green.
Is it your pick?
It's my pick.
I'm taking Dez.
Oh boy.
I'm taking Dez as well.
In a PPR.
PPR, absolutely. So my first pick of the draft will be
Dez Bryant.
Des Bryant.
And you're a couple picks away now?
Yeah, so I'm going to be right up again in a
who'd you
second.
keep?
Now this is embarrassing because of how bad the league I did last year. I didn't know the scoring.
Yeah.
I broke a cardinal rule in fantasy football. I didn't look up the scoring. This is a completely different scoring league. But anyway, so I kept as late of the picks as I could, and I drafted Andrew Luck pretty late, which was good. It's a 6-point per touchdown league, and it's also, I believe, a for each completion, it's like 0.25, not a full point. So it would be 4 per completions for a point.
FPPP? PPP?
Something like that, sure. So anyway, so I kept him, and then Riley Cooper late as well.
Yeah.
And that's how bad my team is. But I'm starting off with I like my first pick of Dez. And I think I'm going to wait on a running back. AJ Green just went. I think I may go.
Yeah,
I have Monty.
Julio?
I got Monty Ball on the.
I like that.
Or Julio or DeMarco. It is a point PPR.
Do you have any
I've got
running
Gio
backs at this point?
No, I may take Gio as a PPR guy
Over Ball.
PPR.
over. Yeah, in a PPR.
I think Ball gets some catches this.
You think?
This year, yeah.
What are your
That's,
thoughts, Steve? Ball or Bernard in a PPR?
I think Ball will have a better year even in a PPR. Gio's obviously a better PPR guy, but I think Ball will still have a better year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
And
I think
I don't
with
know.
Gio you have to handcuff Hill.
I like Hill though.
Right, but with
Well,
with I don't think with Ball.
I'm gonna
necessarily
I'm gonna
have to
go with
handcuff
what
him.
I think, and I'm not as big
Yeah,
on
you
Monty
are.
Ball as some of you guys. I'm gonna take Gio Bernard.
Well, he lost. All right, so let's
All
move
right.
on. Let's bring it back to over under. Drew Brees. Back to the quarterbacks. Drew Brees projected now under, but yesterday we're going by yesterday's projections because screw NFL.com for changing your projections every half hour. Projected for 400 plus passing yards on NFL.com. Atlanta gave up the 5th most points to quarterbacks last year. Are you going over under 400 passing yards?
over.
Over 400.
Yeah, over.
Joe?
I have a hard time picking over, but I almost feel the same way as I do with Peyton Manning. And I already said I think this game is going to be a shootout. Atlanta's defense isn't great. They've had some injuries. I'm going over.
Yeah, I'm going over too. And Drew Brees is actually now projected 375 passing yards and 2 passing touchdowns for 23 points. I'm going over, man. I'm going 400 yards and 3 touchdowns at least.
All right, well, I picked over because I thought I was going to have somebody to argue with, but
I
now
mean,
that I don't, we can just move on.
I hate Drew Brees. Okay. Steve was duped and wrote down Sean Hill because yesterday he was projected at 21, I guess, and today he's projected at 12. So, Arian Foster, Steve, you want to take over?
Yeah, he's projected. I don't know. I mean, yesterday he was projected at 17. Do you guys have the injury concerns that are always rampant with
not this
Arian
week.
Foster?
Not this week.
And do you guys think that the offense might run through him because they don't particularly have a quarterback?
Mm-hmm.
His points are down. They're down now, but he's still projected to be the 4th highest scoring running back according to NFL.com here.
Yeah, 13 points, only 40 rushing yards.
Yeah,
but a touchdown.
Yeah, and a touchdown. Yeah.
Apparently, the top 12 running backs on NFL.com will score a touchdown, which never happens.
Right.
Yeah, it looks that way. Yeah. we might have to find somebody new for our projections next week.
It's not a bad idea.
So yeah, I guess the main question.
We tried NFL.com to help.
There's a good reason.
There's a chance the offense could run through Arian Foster this week, and as a result, could he be the 4th highest scoring running back this week?
Yeah, I actually, if I'm looking at points now, they have him at 13. I'm going to go over 13, and actually what they had yesterday at 17.2 I think is a little more my speed. I'm actually even going to go over that, though, because I do think they give him the ball early and often. I think that might increase my injury concerns for the year, but for this week, in speaking terms of this week, I think you're fine. Washington, I think you can run on Washington.
Yeah,
they did up the 4th most points to running backs fantasy-wise last year.
Also known as the 29th least.
Oh boy.
I'm taking the over as well. I'm still an Arian Foster fan until he just shows me that he's done. He can't do it. And maybe this is the year where he only plays half the games or something like that. But especially against the Redskins. I mean, if he were playing a better run defense, I may be a little more leery. Against the Redskins, I'm not worried at all. I'd love to start him.
Okay.
I hear that.
And moving on again, NFL.com really just screwing us up here because yesterday, NFL.com was the only site that had Andre Ellington as the number 2 running back for the week with 126 total yards, including a touchdown for 18 points. That has since been dropped all the way down to 8 points. No touchdown.
To 8 points?
Yeah.
All right. Well, then keep him in there. I want him as my over-under. I'm still putting him in there. But I'm going over.
He's the 13th highest right now. We'll go, like I said, we'll go off what it had yesterday. So 18 points for Andre Ellington with 126 total yards and a touchdown. The second highest scoring running back for the week. Do you think over or under?
I could see him getting 126 total yards. I think it was like 86 yards rushing and 40-some yards receiving. I could see that in a touchdown. I just didn't see him as the number 2 running back for the week.
What about points-wise? 18 points this week? In a standard scoring league?
In a standard scoring league, yeah, I do. I do think 120 total yards and a touchdown is very doable on a Monday night stage, the last game of the week. You've seen everything. So I do think 18 points is very doable.
I'm going to go under on the 18.
Yeah, I'm going to go under as well on the 18.
Yeah.
But I do like, Andre Ellington.
It's
my boy, though.
Andre Ellington.
But I do admit that that's one of the guys I fell in love with and kind of wish you don't because then you may overdraft and get in trouble. But
right, yeah, and I mean all this coming from the guy who took Gio Bernard over Monte Ball. So, no, just kidding. We love Gio Bernard on this show, so I mean
we do. I mean, you were the one telling me he was going to be a top 10 back this year.
Yeah, I don't argue that, and right ahead of him is going to be Monte Ball.
All right, I'll be okay with that.
Next up, Rashad Jennings. Over under the 7th best running back for this week.
I'm sure NFL.com that's changed.
About 16 points. I'm sure it has. I'm not even going to look.
I think this Sean Hill thing might have actually happened. I thought I was seeing things, but I think NFL.com got hacked.
Yeah.
And they just decided to mess up all their rankings.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. So let's go with point total. 16 points for Rashad Jennings this week. 105 total yards and a touchdown. Over under that. Joe?
I'm going to take the under. However, I'm also a Jennings fan this year. I think Jennings should have a solid year, and I do think he should have a solid week. It's 105 total yards and a touchdown from the guy who's going to get most of the carries. I don't think in week 1 Andre Williams is going to play much of a factor.
No.
A report came out this week that I'm not sure if it was Coughlin or one of the coaches said he's still too raw. So that as long as Rashad Jennings is healthy, especially in the first couple weeks, and if you've got him on your team, whether he's your running back 2 or your flex, in my opinion, get him in there because I think he's going to at least be he's going to get enough carries, and then he's also big in the passing game. So especially in PPR, get him in your lineup.
Yeah, I'm going to take the under as well. I actually think this week the Lions have a good rush defense in my opinion. So I don't know if I think it's going to be tough for him to get double digits this week, let alone 16.
Yeah.
Steve, what about you?
Yeah, I tend to agree with Adam. Well, I guess you both took the under, but I'm on the lower end with double digits because of the run defense.
Under. The down under.
Oh, I wouldn't go way under.
Yeah, the down under.
All right, so last one we got Andrew Luck. Again, going off of yesterday. The 5th best quarterback for week 1 spot ahead of Manning. We kind of already touched on him a little bit earlier. 23 points is a lot, so I don't know that I can stick with that. So let me check what NFL.com has egregiously changed it to.
7 and 14 points.
14 points. I'm going over 14 for Andrew.
I'm going to take over as well. Yeah, when I saw it was 23.68, I was ready to say the under, but I'll take over for 14.
Yeah, okay.
I think he could approach 20 just because they'll probably be throwing it a lot more than they'll be running it. So he'll have a chance to throw it around and pick up some maybe garbage points. I'm not really sure how that game's going to turn out, but he'll have plenty of yards.
All right, well, let's get on real quick. We will check the mail. I guess I'll let Robot Bill hit that real quick.
Let's check the mail. You've got mail.
I might have to find a less annoying intro for that.
I love it. Brings me back to my childhood.
All right, first up we got from one of the gentlemen in our league, Rich. Wants to know how we feel about Charles Clay this year. He thinks he has the potential to be a top 10 tight end.
I don't disagree. I think
he's going overlooked quite a bit.
I think when you get past your top 3, maybe 4 guys, maybe 5 if you want to include Vernon Davis, depending on how you have your rankings. I think you can really make a case for any of the other tight ends to be in there. And
be a good, yeah.
I said this a couple times before. I don't think he's a great quarterback, but there's something about the Tannehill I think can be good. They brought down Bill Lazor to be the offensive coordinator down there. He was the quarterbacks coach last year of the Eagles, and they're trying to run an Eagle-style offense down there, up tempo, quick, keep going. So if Tannehill can get his act together, we know that in the Eagle offense, the tight end is going to be used a lot. I can see Charles Clay being a top 10 talent.
Yeah, and for this week, just looking at this week's rankings for Charles Clay, he's ranked 14th going up against New England. Martellus Bennett ahead of him, Antonio Gates ahead of him, Kyle Rudolph ahead of him, Jason Witten. I actually like him a little bit more than Gates and Bennett, to be honest with you.
I think so too.
I think for me, he's just outside the top 10 for this week. And does have that potential, I think, to sneak into the top 10 as a tight end. Steve, what do you think?
I think not Bennett, but yes, Gates. Like you guys have kind of alluded to it. It's really a crapshoot after the first 4 or 5 guys. So, I mean, there's certainly that possibility there. And he's a guy that, I mean, obviously you've drafted already, but you could have taken him way late. And if you want him to be your tight end and you think he can be a top 10, then you get a steal late in the draft, because I'm not sure how often he was really going in drafts, so you might even be able to pick him up. He might be in some leagues where he didn't get drafted. So.
Yeah, he was going really late. Definitely not being drafted as a tight end 1, which he, I think, especially in a 12-team league, has the potential to be.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. If you want to take the flyer on him, there's absolutely nothing holding you back, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, maybe draft him and then take Travis Kelce. I think one of those guys hits. All right, so next up we got a couple stardom sit-em questions, or not really, but like who to start, I guess we can call them. First one is Russ in Delaware wants to know Cecil Shorts III or Kendall Wright. I'm inclined to take Cecil because the Eagles don't have a great secondary, and I think they're going to fall behind a little bit and going to have to go to that pass game. I'm a little lower on Toby Gerhart for that matter. Plus, Kendall Wright's going up against Kansas City, who gave up the 15th fewest points to wide receivers this last year, and the Eagles gave up the most points to wide receivers, that according to Yahoo. Steve, how do you feel about those two?
Yeah, I believe the direct quote from our insider, Shil Kapadia, was, even if Jacksonville only completes 14 passes, somebody's got to catch them.
Somebody has to catch them, yeah.
And Cecil Shorts is their number 1. Again, I like to wait on a rookie wide receiver and let him prove himself a little bit.
Yeah,
Marquise Lee is obviously who I'm talking about there. So I think I like Cecil Shorts as well.
Yeah, I like Marquise Lee for the year, kind of like a couple other guys we discussed on. But again, I think a guy that's going to take a few weeks to develop into maybe a guy that you're plugging in. Joe, Cecil Shorts or Kendall Wright?
I think I'm going to go Kendall Wright. I'm big on Kendall Wright this year. I do love my Kendall Wright.
Why did I even ask?
You shouldn't have asked.
Okay. Steve, I think you had one as well?
I do, yeah. I got a question from Justin out in Texas. He's wondering about it's a flex spot now. So for it's a wide receiver, tight end, running back flex. He's got Frank Gore or Golden Tate. Frank Gore plays Dallas, who we already talked about, giving up the most fantasy points last year to running backs, and Golden Tate plays the Giants. He's now in Detroit, for those who are misinformed.
That's a tough one for me. I actually am going to lean towards Frank Gore, because I think anytime you get a guy who's going up against a bad defense who's guaranteed to get some touches, I don't think we don't know exactly how they're going to use Golden Tate, and I'm not worried about how they're going to use him, but I kind of want to see how they're going to use him. So between the two, I actually think I would flex Gore in there.
Yeah, I like the matchup. This is a matchup play for me, where if you're going to go up against Dallas, you take the matchup where you can get it, and then reassess, and you get a week to see how Golden Tate does in that new offense, like you said, and how they use him. So I think this is kind of, you get a little bit of a pass because you know what you're going to get from Frank Gore, and you're really not sure with Golden Tate at this point. So
yeah, Joe, how you feeling? Are you do you know what we're asking?
No, unfortunately,
you're hot on the press
for whatever's happening in our draft, the Yahoo is screwing it up. It just skipped over like 5 or 6 picks in a row, and then out of nowhere, it just picked a guy for me. So
that's awesome.
My commissioner's not doing a great job. In a PPR league, I'm not that upset with it, but they're gonna have to rechange it. They gave me Vereen
That's not bad.
No,
I
it's
like
not
that.
bad. I like that pick too, but I didn't like that I didn't pick it.
Good auto draft.
I had him in my queue, but I didn't feel
Computer's
comfortable.
doing better than you are. I bet you would have picked Monte Ball too.
We'll see how that goes.
Are you flexing Gore or Tate?
Golden Tate.
I think I'm going to go. I think I'd still stick with Gore. I tend to lean towards running backs in the flex.
That's the trifecta, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that wraps it up for the show. I think we look at that, right on an hour.
Good for us.
We hit the nail on the head there. Thanks again to Sheil Kapadia for coming on with us. We really appreciate it. We hope to bring you more from around the league, more beat guys, maybe even a couple players down the road. But anyway, if you have any questions like the three people we had tonight, email primetime@nextlevelradioonline.com. That's primetime@nextlevelradioonline.com. Primetime's one word. You can also tweet at NXT Level Radio, hashtag PTFF. P is in prime, T is in time, F is in fantasy, F is in football. Follow Joe on Twitter at JoeyWebb32, Steve at SRichards31, and myself at AdamNextLevel. Check out Steve's blog, StevenRichards.net. You can follow Joe. If you're a Packers fan, you definitely want to follow Joe because he does some stuff for Pro Football.
FantasyPros.com.
FantasyPros.com.
Yeah, I'm one of the Packers correspondents.
Okay, I knew Pros was in there.
Yeah, I'm a pro.
Next week, I don't think we're going to be live. We'll probably be going strictly podcast for a little bit now, but we'll keep you posted on that. So just make sure you subscribe on iTunes. Just search for Primetime Fantasy Football. You can also search for Next Level Radio to get the showcast, which is on every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern Daylight Savings Time, and guest spotlights and such. Other than that, I think that's about it. Do either of you have anything? Joe, good luck with the rest of your draft. Anyone who's doing last-minute drafts, good luck. Steve, you got anything?
No, I just want to echo what you said about Sheil. I really appreciate you coming on, and we're going to look to get that, if not every week, then more than once at least, because it's always good to get insight from those guys, and Sheil was kind enough, and we really appreciate him doing it.
Yeah, exactly, and we definitely want to encourage everybody to send us those questions because that's what I think we'd like this podcast to strive on, is answering those: who to sit, who to start. A lot of people will send into the larger ones and they won't get answered because they get so many. Even if we get a ton, we're going to try and answer literally every single one. So make sure
we'll make it a segment out of it.
Yeah, I mean, I would do a whole show on it if we got enough.
Absolutely.
I would have no problem with that. I'm not even kidding. So, like I said, primetime at Next Level Radio Online or at NXT Level Radio, hashtag PTFF. But that wraps it up for this week. Good luck to all you fantasy players. Week 1 is coming up. Joe looks confused, so he's going to try and get his draft figured out, or his commissioner's going to try and get it figured out.
Hopefully.
Good luck in Week 1.
Yeah.
We'll see you in Week 2.
See you guys.
The Showcast.
Next on the list is The Nut Job. Voices are Will Arnett and Liam Neeson. Liam Neeson is enough just to get me to rent it.
Squirrels, right?
Yeah, this is the squirrel. I would hope so with a movie called The Nut Job. Otherwise, it's a complete porn title that I'm just reviewing completely wrong.
Liam Neeson in it?
Well, you never know.
Sundays on Next Level Radio.